Peter says I'm ugly.
My only pushback on that was that I was trying to tell you how I was thinking, and you kept interrupting me and telling me how I was wrong.
Well, no, it wasn't that you were wrong. It's that you hadn't met this last person. Sorry, this is a continuation of the prior podcast.
But you were like, you're wrong because you don't know, you don't have all the context. And I started, and I was like,
you're right on.
I don't have the context.
All right. I was a little mean on Peter on the last podcast. By the way, this is the Venture Capital Podcast, where you learn all about venture capital and how to get your own business funded. This is where Peter takes, peels back the curtain so you can say, this is actually what a venture capitalist actually thinks, which is very, very rare, because the only people I know in angel investing or venture investing that say what they actually think end up walking away with a really bad reputation. And it's
so
like,
I'm here to ruin my reputation for your entertainment.
No, to learn. This is learning. This is not investment advice. This is not legal advice. I'm going to turn on QuickTime so we can do a screen share so we can see what Peter's looking at on my computer. So anyways, my background is I own codebase.com. I've got another business, appointment.com, and we've put a pitch deck together for it. And we have tested it on multiple VCs, which I don't know if you think that's a good idea, bad idea. Basically, I look at VCs as a litmus test potentially for where are the big opportunities. So we went to a few different investment groups and pitched them completely different pitch decks to see how would they respond.
Okay.
Because I wanted the confidence is if this is a pitch deck we run with and we take 100 meetings for, I want to feel confident and like know what they're going to ask, be prepared for them, things like that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Peter Harris from University Growth Fund is going to rate my pitch deck for appointment.com.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. What's it going to be?
Now you need to forget everything else you've forgotten. So basically what you're looking on the screen is we've got 3 things. Maybe I changed one other thing. We put like a quick 1-minute video that we put together for Y Combinator.
Yeah. We
created a very loose, because again, this is like pre-seed, pre-revenue pitch deck, what the service revenue would look like. And then we put our pitch deck together. If I were to add anything else, I might put a page or 2 of the founding team, say this is who we are. But first off, what's your gut reaction for and I called it a deal room.
It's a little thin, but I mean,
what else would you like to see?
I mean, for this stage of the company, I think like a product demo would be good.
Product demo doesn't exist.
You don't have a product, so can't get a product demo.
So
but you could build something in like Figma or something and have like a short little video. But maybe that's what your appointment 1-minute video is. I don't know.
Yeah, just keep talking. Do your gut reaction, and then I can answer any questions you have of why we do or don't.
I would also so this is revenue estimate. I'd like to know cost estimate. So full-fledged projection budget. I think would be really helpful just to know
even in a pre-revenue deal.
Yeah, because you're going to have a lot of cost.
By the way, one of your interns said this was good enough. So you know who I'm talking about.
Look, is it good enough? Sure, it's good enough. You want something better? I'm giving you what I would want that's better.
Okay, so we've got both. But in here it's just here's a high-level overview of
I'm just saying other things that would be interesting to see, right? Okay. So some other things that would be interesting would be a budget that says this is what it's going to cost us to build this. This is how long it's going to take. This is when we can start generating revenue. Just so I have a rough idea of okay, what am I getting myself into? What am I funding here? I think another thing that would be super interesting is if you had anything around customer validation. So I know you haven't built a product yet, but you can do a lot of product validation and customer verification validation before you ever launch a product, right? So that could be pre-orders, customers talking about how much they really want this product and they just can't wait till it gets launched. Some sort of indication that that opportunity exists. Maybe you have it in your pitch deck. I don't know. That could be helpful. Yeah, resumes on the team or some other
that's one thing I've been debating.
Write up or indication of who am I backing?
Okay. In the pitch deck, we have a 1-page on who's involved from a high level.
Yeah. Well, you may want to have something that's actually more detailed.
Okay.
Because I know you, right? But I don't know your co-founder as well, right? And if all I've got to go off of is some pictures and a little bio on a deck, I don't know, that doesn't give me a ton of confidence. References, could also be like really helpful.
Okay. What would those references look like? Would they just be like one pagers from?
So it could be either like a reference letter, or it could just be contact info that says, hey, go contact my former employer or whatever, right?
Okay. And would you typically see something like this in Google Drive, or are you more accustomed to using something like DocuSend?
I've used them all. So
do you have a preference as a VC? Do VCs have a preference?
That's a good question. Personally, I do not love all like the virtual data rooms that are out there, because like I've got to manage like a zillion passwords, and I don't know, they're kind of a pain because they do like 2-factor authentication, and they like half the time they're restricting what I can and can't download, and it's just a pain. I think Google Drive's great. I think Google Drive is great. I think Dropbox is great. I think Box is great. I think Carta is great. Like whatever. But from my perspective, like, you know, having a handful of things, most important at this point is probably, in my opinion, your deck and your budget, and then making it like super accessible so I can download stuff and manipulate it the way I want to, right?
Okay. So far you're saying, to summary the first part is Google Drive was fine. You would have liked to have seen resumes and or references, and you would have liked to have seen some type of a cost exercise to say this is when you're going to start making money.
Yeah, and what it's going to cost you to build the thing, right?
Okay.
So, because you're going to raise money because you need to cover costs, right, to build it.
By the way, if you are listening to the podcast, this is definitely an episode where you'll want to check us out on YouTube. So just go to venturecapital.fm, click on the YouTube link right there on the homepage, and then you can come and find this episode.
But all of that said, my intern is right.
Okay.
This is good enough. Honestly, just having your pitch deck at this stage of the company where it's pre-product is probably good enough. So.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it at this stage still is more on reputation. Uh-huh. And if we were to raise right now, it would be probably more of a seed deal, especially in this market. And it would be much more.
It's going to be a pre-seed deal because you're pre-product.
So.
And it's really going to be based on like, do I like John and his co-founder? Mm-hmm. And do I believe that like this market is big? Mm-hmm. Right?
Correct. One of the things we did, and I won't show you the video, is with my co-founder, we got a video professionally done. Uh-huh. Do you think that's over the top, or do you think it should just be, hey, here's me on my iPhone, here's our 1-minute summary, and this is why we're going to crush it?
I don't think videos are super necessary, honestly.
Okay. We did a video.
If you're going to do a video, then do it well.
Okay.
I don't know that you have to spend $10,000.
Oh, we definitely did not spend $10,000.
But like
much less.
But like, yeah, I mean, having like good equipment
and maybe some background is just for you again watching. Go to venturecapital.fm. And Appointment was an existing business we acquired. So in fact, one of the interesting things is when we pitched YC, that was one thing that appeared to throw them off. Mm-hmm. Why are you starting with such an expensive domain name? What's the history of the business here? Yeah. Hey, this looks more of like a private equity deal than anything else. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, my honest opinion is that...
I want your dishonest opinion, Peter. Let's just be clear. I want to feel good. I want you to tell me I'm a winner.
You are a winner, and they were wrong to reject you, and they will rue the day.
No, I was hesitant for pitching them in the first place because of.
I think you should have crafted the story a little bit better.
Okay.
And anticipated like, hey, yeah, I bought this expensive domain, but here's why, and here's how it fits, and like blah blah blah.
SEO, things like that.
Yeah,
and I think they walked away saying, hey, we understood that we understand the reasons why you bought it. That there's 14 years of existing history. It's going to be so much easier to rank for the terms that you want to rank for.
Yeah.
We recognize the branding perspective. I think one of the things that I would congratulate Y Combinator on is that unlike other VCs that I know personally, they actually came back and I think they said what they actually believed in a very lengthy email. Hey, we're passing for these reasons.
But you shared that email with me, and I agree. I thought like that email was phenomenal. I thought it was one of the best like rejection emails from a VC I've ever seen. So kudos to Y Combinator for that. Now, granted, they get to say no more than most VCs do,
but they're interviewing thousands of companies.
I know.
Like when we did our
YC impressive interview, that they actually like take the time to do it, right?
There was only 2 spots left when we got in because I applied a month late because I'm like, do I apply? Do I not apply?
Yeah.
Jared Rodman from Weave, who went through there, said it was a huge turning point for them. He's like, you should do it. I'm like, I don't know. The only thing that made it slightly more, because it's an expensive deal. It's 7%.
Yeah.
For $130K. That's super expensive.
Yeah. But you get a lot more than 100K.
But now they have 400 companies that go through their portfolio. So it's not like originally when there were just 10 companies and you're meeting with like the CMO from Twitter. Yeah. And they're bringing people and you're getting like really good.
There still is a decent amount of cachet though. that's helpful.
I don't know. The other interesting thing is some of my VC friends love it, and then some very poo-poo it.
Yeah, but even the VCs that like poo-poo it, like they're never gonna look at it as a negative.
Never. Hey, you got into Y Combinator. This is a negative.
Oh, you suck. Yeah, they're gonna be like, well, I hope he's not entitled.
But really, if I were to look at now, having gone through the process, I know we're going down a tangent. If I was a VC and someone said they got into Y Combinator, I'd say you got through a 7-minute interview.
Yeah, but like
it was the quickest decision process for $500,000 I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never met you. You've got a recommendation. They didn't even ask the questions I thought they would ask.
Yeah, but I think they do have a pretty clear criteria. I mean, they're investing so early. Like you were pre-product, right? Mm-hmm. So like honestly, what do they have to go off of?
Yeah, I mean that could have been, but
the things that they liked, and they mentioned this in the email, right? Is like business plus technical co-founders that have worked together, right? They loved that. Mm-hmm. Big market opportunity, right? They loved that. Like there was a lot that they liked, right?
Okay.
And there were just enough like little things that they said,
you're not one of our 400.
Not one of our 400 yet.
All right. What do you want to see next? What would you click on next as a VC?
Oh, I'd 100% just open up the pitch deck.
Okay. And I'm going to go full screen. So just so you know, there will be a couple things in this that for confidentiality reasons, we're going to hide, but we'll talk about them as much as we can. Cool. Slideshow. Full screen.
Full send. Okay.
How's my title slide?
It's fine.
What should change, if anything? Should I have like a unicorn galloping across as an emotion?
100%.
There actually isn't a unicorn that my co-founder put in the financials. I'm like, this is kind of weird, but I'm leaving it.
That's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine. Look, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the cover slide.
Should it have like a tagline on the cover slide?
Yeah, you could put one on if you want. Give me start subconsciously driving me towards some sort of vision of the future that you're striving towards, right?
Okay. Before we go any deeper,
I mean, look, I look at this and I don't know what it is. Like appointment, and it looks like kind of like a Calendly competitor. Okay. Let's see. But I mean, I'll tell you, based on that, I'm already a little bit disinterested because I'm kind of that space is a little bit crowded, but I'm curious to see what their unique thing is. So
interesting. Because also this image is from our first pitch, and the first pitch when we went to the first two, a private investor and then a VC, was we are going to be a Calendly killer.
Yeah.
And the feedback that we got from Trent Mono, I think I can say this. I'll ask him, which I thought was pretty good on. He said, "Hey, Calendly, having been around for as long as they are, has probably a huge market share. Definitely everyone, it's a very common tool if someone's going to use that tool." And he's like, "I can't imagine how you could make anything better. And brand alone is not enough in his opinion.
Owning appointment.com is not enough to be a differentiator."
His feedback, and I hope he's fine. We'll check with him if we can share it. But I thought I respected him for that. Great feedback, I thought. Uh-huh. And again, if you're a VC, you want a clear $1 billion exit. And if Calendly perhaps has 50% of the market and they're worth $3 or $4 billion, how can someone else come in and usurp them? And our pitch definitely did not show that story.
Yeah.
And even if you do win, if you're a VC right now, you're looking for a company that can sell. If you're Andreessen, I talked to my friends at Andreessen, they're like, "John, if this isn't a $20 billion plus opportunity, we're not interested. Funds these days are $20 billion.
Yep.
So
it's true.
One of the slides showed that this is how we get to $1 billion. It's tricky. Here's the hard part. We're pitching people and they're either saying the product isn't technical enough to get you to $1 billion plus, or it's too big and there's no way you can make this happen. Or they said it was too small, or it's you're not going big enough. And I'm like, I don't know how to juggle this one. Where they're too technical or not technical enough, or too big of a product, or it's not a big enough market vision. So anyways, we can go there. But so I think we got feedback. Any other feedback here?
No.
Do you
I do agree with Trent and everything he said. But yeah.
And that's partly, we also made a pivot because we're like, hey, what are they thinking about when they're looking at this professionally?
Here's the other thing though, John.
Okay.
VCs are not that
smart. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
I feel like VCs are smart because they have a ton of smart friends.
I mean, I think VCs are smart to the extent that they see a lot of things.
I think you're definitely smart. So
I did
not call you ugly, Peter.
That's okay. You can call me ugly. But I guess what I'm saying is I want the entrepreneur to educate me.
Okay.
I expect the entrepreneur to know more about what they're doing than I do, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I wonder if some of the feedback you were getting was like, hey, we're going to build a Calendly competitor. And then you like walked through like how, and the VC was like, I'm not sure I agree with that. And you're not providing enough information to me to convince me that I'm wrong.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but like, I don't know. I approach these things as like, I'm here to learn from the entrepreneur. I can like pattern recognize a little bit, and I can see some things that have worked for others, and I can assess what risks I'm willing to take. But at the end of the day, like the deals that get me the most excited are the ones where the entrepreneur has earned like that secret, right? That secret knowledge of like what is going to make this thing
something
huge.
you've talked about a lot. The other thing that
that
I didn't say you talk a lot, that you've talked about a lot. The hard part I think I found for it too when you first start pitching.
Yeah.
I've been in the scheduling space for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And so when you're a technical person, you start thinking technically.
Yeah.
You think of things differently than I thought like a VC would.
Yeah.
So had I were to do this again, I was like, man, I've been here for 4 years. I know this. I should have realized that talking to people who don't know my space is going to be a very different thing. And I probably should have done 20 plus pitches to smart people who don't know my space. And my pitch to Album or to Trent probably would have been much different.
Yeah.
And that's where my overconfidence and being the technician, I think I definitely fumbled.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it is hard, right? Like you can't see the forest for the trees, right?
Or then the question is, how do you explain it to someone? Because sometimes I feel like VCs ask really dumb questions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to answer.
You're so stupid.
You're so stupid. But it's not just like you're in the trenches, so I'm like, oh, we've built another company in this space.
Yeah.
We have this experience. How do I take 4 years and put it in one sentence? So the VC is like, is that fair?
Yeah, I think the bigger challenge is that sometimes VCs are a little arrogant, right? And they're not willing to admit that they're actually not that smart.
I think the biggest question I fumbled with Album is they said, hey, if we give you 2.5 million, where do we get you? And I definitely fumbled that question.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't know. And even though we've been in the space, this is.
But you should have had an answer for that.
I should have had an answer. But it's one of those things. Had I talked to people who fundraise, like had I gone to like 20 friends who've raised more than $2 million, someone there would have asked that question.
Yeah.
And then I would have been prepared for it, not been like, well, Calendly raised $500K and now they're worth 4 billion. So if we raise 2.5.
But again, this is where like I'd love to see a budget.
Because
if you had like put together a budget, you could have answered that question really easily.
Right.
You'd be like, okay, well, it's going to cost us $500,000 to build a product, and then we're going to spend $1 million on marketing, and then I'm going to hire like these many like sales reps and blah blah blah. I don't know, right?
Yep. And no one talks about how even though you're in the space, like creating a pitch deck and creating a very succinct message and having succinct messages for all those random questions that will come.
Yeah.
This is an immense amount of work, even though I've been in the space for a long time.
Sure.
So we created a vision slide. We created, what did we do? We were following
open table for business services. Is this still the vision?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think this is what we've seen all along, but the question is, they're like, John, this is a small company. And then we're like, how do we explain it? Like the way we see it is scheduling is much more than just a link. And right now, most services are there.
Okay. So I actually don't like, I don't love this like vision slide because I think what the feedback you're getting is I don't think people understand or feel the pain point here. I think what would be more effective here is educate me on what the pain point is.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know, like pick one of these things, like, and tell me why there needs to be an open table for education for appointments.
Okay. Good to go now?
Sure.
Can I go with medicine instead?
Go with medicine. I don't care. Pick one.
This week, I needed to schedule a physical therapy appointment for my wife.
Okay.
Can't do it online. I had to call multiple times. I'm on hold for 10, 20 plus minutes.
Yep.
If I could log into a HIPAA compliant site and I knew exactly where to go to find the person, I could see my reservation, my appointment.
Yep.
I could have rescheduled. I would have saved the doctor's office money.
Yeah.
As well.
Okay.
I would have saved 20 or 30 minutes probably.
Okay.
This week alone, because there was a doctor's visit, and there was.
Okay, are you gonna pay for the service, or is the doctor gonna pay for the service?
The doctor.
The doctor. Okay, so like, no offense, but I really don't actually care about your pain point then.
Okay.
What is the doctor's pain point?
Customers.
What do you mean customers?
Okay, so
they want more customers, or they're tired of dealing with customers like John that call them up and like, hey, I got to cancel, I got to reschedule.
Here's my hypothesis.
Yeah.
No matter what scheduling tool a doctor or an attorney or a spa is currently using, if a new service comes online that can give them clients and has a brand that people are going to schedule all their appointments, it's going to get critical mass. More and more people are going to schedule there. It's going to be easier to schedule there, and they're going to lose clients. Whereas if they flip to appointment, again, big vision, that's why they'll switch.
Here's a question. How much does OpenTable actually drive revenue to restaurants versus restaurants driving revenue to OpenTable?
So I don't have, great question. I don't know.
Because my understanding with OpenTable is that basically what they did is they built software that allowed restaurants to manage the tables and the waiters and waitresses that were managing those tables. And then the advantage of that was that because they knew how many tables were out there and who was working and who was covering those tables at any given time, then they could match that with like, oh, hey, there's an open table here. And if you want to make a reservation, you can find out about that and make your reservation and book that table. But like, I don't know anybody that goes to OpenTable hunting for restaurant opportunities. When I interact with OpenTable, well, it's more like I'm going to Yelp, I'm going to their website or whatever, and there's an OpenTable link that they use to manage their reservations.
Right. So let me ask you another question.
So is like the value add driving customers, or is the value add like
both,
helping them manage their schedules?
I can get there into another point in the slide.
Okay.
But I think the point, there's two aspects. I see this as we're first and foremost solving the pain point of someone who wants to schedule. In 2022, if the last 4 massages we've scheduled as a couple, I've had to call in.
Yep. But why is that? Because there's a zillion like calendaring, scheduling apps specifically built for massage therapists.
So when there was an amazing podcast from the founder of Acuity Scheduling, and he said Acuity was losing in that a superior scheduling tool as an Acuity would lose to an inferior scheduling tool that was bundled with an existing workflow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's why he's like, hey, we're losing. And that may have been partly what encouraged him to sell to Squarespace. And that Squarespace could create a really cheap tool.
They could basically take Acuity and plug it in to their existing workflow. Okay, but that still doesn't answer the question. Like, why doesn't the physical therapist? Why doesn't the massage therapist? Why do these people not? Why are they not using a tool?
I think they have a tool right now. I would say is a lot, if to an extent, that all is built into their existing workflow. That's a crappy scheduling option.
But it's not available to the public for scheduling.
It's hard because you have to learn how to hunt and peck.
What do you mean?
Does my doctor have a scheduling tool? Do they not have a scheduling tool? So a scenario that we had is I was feeling really sick one night, like at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I went to my IHC app. I said, can I schedule? I had to hunt around. I finally found where their scheduling tool was. And then they virtually don't have any options. So I don't know the actual answers why that medical office, you could schedule virtual, but they had very few options. And, it's probably HIPAA why they want you to go through their secretary. But if I had a HIPAA compliant option at 2 a.m, I could have scheduled something for 8 a.m. Instead, I had to wake up at 8 a.m., call them, wait for them to answer for 10 minutes, being on hold, get scheduled for sometime later that day. And as a sick person, it just made a much more uncomfortable experience.
No, and I get that. I get that, like, this was a painful experience for you.
I mean, but
you're not willing to pay to solve it either.
No, what I think will happen, here's the hypothesis. Give me the 5-10 year thing.
Okay.
Just like you go to other marketplaces.
Like what? Give me an example.
Google Flights.
Okay, I go to Google Flights.
And you can see all the flight options from there.
Okay.
I think if something for scheduling existed.
How much revenue do you think Google Flights generates for Google?
Google Flights is probably very little, if none.
Yeah, I don't think they make anything. Is there a portal where they do make a lot of money? Like that does generate a lot of income? Like where?
Fresha would be one. Fresha focuses primarily on spas. I think that's primarily because spas.
So people go to Fresha hunting for a spa.
Yeah. Wait, are we giving feedback on the model or on the pitch deck? I feel like we totally walked away from the pitch deck, which is fine if that's what you want to do, because I think people should be hearing what questions does a VC ask.
I think, look, the feedback for the pitch deck is...
You don't like the vision statement.
I don't see what the vision is.
Okay.
Like I'm struggling to like.
You don't see.
I'm struggling to envision a world.
Would your life be easier? When was the last time you scheduled an auto service?
Like I don't know, like a year ago with Tesla.
With Tesla.
So I open up the Tesla app.
Okay.
And I say I need a
schedule
service, and then it's like boom, like here's your options, pick one, and I picked one.
What about
and then they come
your
and fix
pickup?
it. For my pickup?
Yeah.
Oh, and for that, yeah, I give them a call.
Okay.
And then I'm like, hey, can you fix this? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then I bring it down and drop it off, right?
Would it be easier if you could go to appointment.com and have scheduled that and not had to make a phone call?
Potentially, but I don't know if I'm going to
When was the last time you got a massage?
If I'm going to go to appointment.com or if I'm just going to go to their website.
When was the last time you
expect to book something? Okay.
When was the last time you scheduled an appointment with UGF's attorney?
I don't know. We email them.
Yeah, so you email, you have to wait a response for back. What if you want to set up a phone call?
Yeah.
You could go for your attorney, book it. If it had a workflow built in, it would be super easy for the attorney. Oh, here's the rate. They're already connected. Here's the rules around
I get that. I totally get it. But I'm disagreeing. Not disagreeing.
He's disagreeing.
What I'm not understanding.
Okay.
Is why would I go to appointment.com as a portal to do that versus just like going to their website, going to their Calendly and booking that same time?
I think so. The answer would be if there was one place where I know all of the scheduling services that do virtual scheduling are there, my life is so much easier. I don't have to. But
that is a huge lift because that's the other thing that like
totally a huge lift.
It's an insanely big lift.
That's the big vision.
But the problem is that you don't offer very much value until you have massive coverage, right? It's like no one's going to sign up for a music streaming service that only has 5 million songs. It's just not worth it, right? They're going to wait until they've got like 90% of the songs people care about before they sign up.
But that's also why we're not leading with the marketplace.
Okay. But that's your long-term vision.
Right. My long-term vision is any service you want to schedule.
You can find it through appointment.com.
And I don't have to.
And you become a search portal.
And I become a search portal.
Okay.
I don't have to go to, if I want a massage, I don't have to go to the website. I don't have to hunt for their scheduling link. If they don't have a scheduling link, I have to do a phone call.
So really, like, in a way, your competition, like what you're trying to build is like Amazon for services. See, that I think is more interesting than an open table for business services.
Okay.
Sell me Amazon for business services.
Okay.
And now you're competing against companies like if you need a plumber. Thumbtack, right? It's similar to Thumbtack, except for instead of Thumbtack, it's
Thumbtack is selling leads to multiple individuals.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying that you do leads.
And again, you're having to wait for a response.
But in a way you are, right? Because what you're saying is like the way we are better than Thumbtack is instead of saying like, hey, I need a plumber and here's like some details about my toilet that broke, right? And then getting like 3 different people approach you. In a way, you could build yourself into being like the trusted identifier of who's good, right? In some ways, right? If I go on and I'm like, I need a plumber.
Okay, here's a plumber.
And like you just say like, okay, here's some plumbers and here's how they're rating. And I just pick the one I want and I can book the time I want. Or I could even search by like, I need this fixed like tomorrow or I need it fixed right now.
When was your last
and like,
plumbing
boom,
emergency?
I can see everyone that's available.
When was your last plumbing emergency?
I don't know, like a year or 2 ago.
What happened?
I don't know. I actually fix most of my own plumbing problems. So
okay, because you're too smart. But what do you think happens?
I think most people they Google search like plumbing.
They call multiple
people.
They
call multiple people and they try to find someone that can come fix their problem at a reasonable price that's going to
And you're calling multiple people where you could go to appointment.com and instantly say, hey, here's someone who's available. They do visits at 6 a.m. in the morning. That's their next visit. They've got a great reputation. I can schedule. I can pay. I can validate that this is a real person. Non-refundable deposit. I'm paying for the visit to come out.
Yep.
You scheduled an at-home appointment. That would be an example.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So that is like what I would want to see.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So my vision slides Amazon for services, and you want to see the pain point.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like how Amazon for services might be a better solution than OpenTable for business services? Because Amazon, it denotes this I go to Amazon to buy like all kinds of stuff. Right. And this actually brings up a valid thing that you should consider that's a major risk, which is like you've got to convince people to change their behavior from Google searching, right? Plumbers or massage therapists or whatever, searching through the things, calling, right? Because that's the current status quo. That's how people are trained to act. And you got to shift them from that over to go to appointment.com and hunt for whatever it is, whatever service that you need to have done, right? So, which is not trivial, right? That's tough. But if you can do it, then you become like an Amazon, you become like a Google, you become like a place, a destination where people go, right? And I think that is actually super interesting.
Okay. All right. Mission statement. What is it? What was the template? I think there's a Sequoia pitch deck template, and that's what we followed for most of it. But when we've used it, I feel like we get a lot of like feedback. I want to see this. I want to see this. I'm like, then what's all these like standard templates on here for?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, your pitch deck should be like, help me understand and fill the pain point.
Okay.
Show me how your solution solves the pain point so that I get relief, right? Show me why you guys are the ones to like execute on your pain point or on your solution. Show me like what traction you've achieved so far.
What are your
thoughts? Like, and anything beyond that is like just personal preference on how you put it together.
Okay.
But
do you like a mission statement?
Sure. I mean, it's fine.
Fine.
It feels like your vision.
Okay.
Right.
Help businesses schedule 1 billion appointments by 2030, get 10,000 business customers by 2028.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
It doesn't like, I mean, here's the thing. It doesn't do anything for me. It's like, okay, cool. Like those are admirable goals.
Okay.
So big, hairy, audacious goals.
So this screen, we're going to fuzz out a little bit, but we basically what it talks about is that we acquired a domain, code base, users, things like that. We talked about revenue. I debated whether we should include any revenue or not because it's a current operating business that is not revenue for the current model.
Okay.
And that we're not currently we're focusing on development, not growing that current revenue stream.
Okay. So what's my takeaway here?
The takeaway is we're trying to show that there's traction and there's not just a fancy domain and that things are happening. We're showing things like Google Analytics numbers.
So look, I think this is cool, but I think it's too early in the deck.
Okay. Where would you put this?
I put it down. So remember what I just walked through, right? Pain point, solution, why you.
Okay.
Essentially, right? This is the why you.
Okay.
Right? Like you bought this domain. It's got a ton of advantages. That's one of the reasons you're going to like have a jump start and win.
Okay.
But to me, like this doesn't answer the question of like how you're solving the problem yet.
Okay. So here's our problem slide. And I think this is what you were looking for earlier.
Yeah.
How do we currently schedule search for appointments? We do Google search, call, voicemail. We hunt for scheduling URL, which is one of the things that you've talked about here. And ultimately, we see it as scheduling in 2022 is painful. Would you agree or disagree?
For business services or not?
What do you mean or not?
Well, what is like, rescheduling, but like just scheduling in general is kind of painful for business services, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have a relationship with the company already. Okay. I think the other thing too here that look, if what you really want to be is a portal, then I would also talk about how, I don't know, in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, the pain point you are trying to solve here is I'm the massage therapist, right? And there are customers I am missing out on because they call and I can't take the call. They try to book, they try to find the link. They can't find the link to schedule. My scheduling tool is not up to date. Right. And it's a pain to manage it and make sure it's up to date. So ultimately I turn it off because I've had bad experiences of people double booking or whatever. Right. Like there's all these like pain points of like me missing out on revenue that I could have if I had a better scheduling tool. Right. And a better scheduling tool for customers to use and discover who I am and all of that sort of thing. Right. So that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is like Google was a great solution. But ultimately, like you're running into all these problems. Like I do a Google search and I see a whole bunch of results, but like now I got to call each one or I got to pull open each website or I have to like whatever. And I have to spend all the time to figure out like when are they available, when are they not? And I end up, if I'm a business and I am available at that time, but I didn't pick up the phone in time, I missed out on that client, right? Like I think about my mom's bankruptcy practice, right? Like something like this would be great for her because her problem is like people call in and she can't pick up the phone fast enough, right, to get them. And so she knows that she's missing out on people. And it would be better if she just had like the ability for somebody to like go see what her availability is, book their own appointment, right, in her schedule, and go from there, right? Mm-hmm. So like I can see the value there. That's the kind of pain point that I want to see here is like her, like all the pain that she's feeling from missing out on revenue. Okay. Because the customer experience sucks to schedule something.
The pain point's a pain point on both sides. I'm curious, why does your mom not use a scheduling tool? Or does she?
She does, but I mean, it's not very good.
Okay.
Right? It is built in to somebody else's process.
Okay.
But look, I agree the pain points on both sides, but only one side's going to pay for it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's how I would approach it is like the pain point for the business owner is this. And the reason it exists is because the customer has this pain point.
Okay. Got it. What are you laughing for? Next slide. What do you laugh? What's the laugh for?
I don't know. I feel like you don't like my thoughts.
No, I think your thoughts are really good. And I think the more I talk about it and verbalize it with someone who's not in the space, it's always beneficial. And I think for the audience here, seeing them like what's happening behind the kimono, where you know it's a safe space, you can say the baby's ugly and I'm not going to like block you on Facebook or iMessage.
You're not going to cancel me.
I'm not going to cancel you. Okay. We put
one tool to rule them all.
Yep. So for the solution thing, we said one tool to rule them all. We feel like the solution
Get rid of OpenTable. It should be Amazon.
Okay. And then other services, CRM, payments, workflows, reputation management, things like that.
Yeah. Here's the other thing I think that's not here is integrations. Okay. Because to your point, what's happened is people came out with this like dedicated calendaring solution, right? For business services, right? Okay. And other companies rolled in a simplified tool. And then customers were like, well, it's like good enough. And so they ditched the other product, right? And part of the reason they probably ditched the other product is because the other product doesn't integrate well. It doesn't, tie in with the other business processes. And so it's actually, even though the actual scheduling is better, the workflow part of it, which is way more valuable, is worse. And so they get rid of it. And so one of the things that I would be thinking about then is like, how do you integrate into the workflow?
Okay.
Can you integrate with
great question,
all these
Peter.
other companies?
Would you like us to go to the next slide?
That would be great, but it should be here on this solution slide.
Okay.
It shouldn't be on the next one.
Okay.
Right?
The question
I don't know.
The question is, how much of the story do you tell and when? Because I feel like the challenge, the biggest frustration I think in pitching is some people are like, your idea is too small, it's too simple, it's never going to be big enough for us to be interested. It's never going to be $1 billion plus. So then we show them the big vision, and then other people come through and say, this is too technical, you're doing too much. And I'm like, how do we win? It's this constant flip. Andreessen Horowitz said, you're thinking too small. And then I talked to someone at another VC fund, and they say, John,
you're trying to boil the ocean.
Yeah, you're trying to boil the ocean.
Well, look, if you're trying to integrate with every single business service out there, day one, you're boiling the ocean.
But the answer is simple.
Just tell me you're going to focus on a niche.
What's the top? Yeah, when you build, the way we look at this is we build a freemium model. We start getting people on, and as these niches start attracting, that's when we start building deeper in integrations and workflows and phones and payments, things like that.
Yeah. But look, so one route is to like build the whole workflow, and another is to integrate it with.
Well, it would be both, workflows. Right?
Yeah.
In order to have a marketplace, you need to remove as many barriers to entry as possible.
Yeah. All I'm saying is here you've got the other services, which is building out the workflow. I would also include integrating with existing workflows.
All right. Ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. So this is where we try to show the big vision of like where we're ultimately going. And maybe we should show this one sooner is like when I saw Appointment, and the reason I got excited is because I see this combination of things. I see there's a potential marketplace. I see there's workflows where you can do SaaS subscriptions. And I also see like a network effect where the more users you have, the more valuable the service can become. And from one of my prior businesses, Tiny Torch, I really like SaaS businesses where the user is incentivized to bring more people on board, to get them in the app. And most SaaS applications don't have it. So if you said like, what's the one reason why I sprung on this opportunity? It was for that.
Okay. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So the idea is kind of like, I'm the massage therapist. I list on appointment.com my services, but then I also have an appointment.com calendar on my website or something along those lines. And so people that find me through my website are using appointment.com. They get familiar with it, pulls them in. And now when they need the physical therapist appointment, they know that they can go to appointment.com to do that. And maybe they even have an account, right? And that's where like you create real networks. Network effects is because it's like, oh, I have an appointment.com account. And so when I book with my massage therapist, it already has all my information, my name, my payment information, all that stuff preset. And then when I go to book my my dentist appointment or whatever, it's got all of that same information there. And I just like click, yep, I want to book this appointment. I don't have to fill out their form all over again. Right.
And I can see them all in one place.
Right. Well, I have the ability to see it all through one portal, or I can go website to website, right? Either one.
I mean, the way I see this is we could also provide them an API so they could take the data and do what they want with their client data as well.
Sure.
Remove barrier entries so the businesses will also want to be on board. Hey, we don't like appointments process. We've got our own process. Still allow them to connect.
Yeah. But like from a consumer perspective, like it would be nice not to have like 50 million logins to manage the same information, right?
Correct.
So,
and I could see all of my upcoming appointments from one spot. It's not like, hey, I scheduled, like one of the new scheduling tools out there in the open table space is Resi.
Yep.
And when I go to Resi, I can see all of my upcoming like appointments
that you've booked through Resi, but you're not seeing the ones on open table.
Mm-hmm.
But the advantage, disadvantage you have is like there are a zillion other calendaring apps that aren't going to like fully integrate with this. But if you can get all of the business services, right?
Correct.
And then you can push to calendaring applications like Google Calendar and iCal and so forth, then it's fine, right?
Do you like this slide? We stole it from NFX. I don't know if you're familiar with
yeah, of course.
Do you like the slide in here?
I mean, it's fine.
You
have to do a lot of explaining for me to get it, though.
Okay. I mean, I think what
would be better, like your slide deck is like super simple.
Okay.
And I feel like you could do more with just like a little bit more diagrams and stuff.
Okay.
So like, for example, we just walked through this whole like workflow and network effect that's going on, right? Like show that to me in a diagram.
Okay.
Of like, hey, here's Judy, and like she books an appointment with her massage therapist through the appointment.com widget that sits on their website, right? And by doing that, she sets up this whole account. And then when she goes onto appointment.com because she needs to find a plumber, right? Boom, like she already has an account. It's all set up. It's got her payment information, her name, all that stuff. And boom, I've got this network effect where that massage therapist just got my plumber a customer, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like that, like all of a sudden, like, okay, now I can see like where these network effects are starting to play.
Okay. I like it.
And the idea, right, is each additional business service or service provider you add adds more value to the overall experience of Judy, the person that's scheduling the different things.
Okay. I dig it. I don't know. I feel like you want me to say something, or you're afraid that you've attacked me and I'm upset.
No, I feel like you're like just nodding and you think what I'm saying is like, okay, whatever you think, Peter.
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, the challenge is there's so much that ultimately a pitch deck is one's ability to tell a story really well. And to do that, it takes a lot of time.
I 100%
and thoughts.
Agree. It's hard.
And I think that was the biggest surprise because, again, I was in the space for 4+ years.
Yeah.
This lot, you go to your first VC meeting thinking like, I've got tons of experience. This is not something I've thought about in my shower for the last month, and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And so I'm just taking it in.
All right.
This is not what like my wife would say. It'd be like, yes. Okay. So this one, the solution visualized, probably should be updated because I think this is probably more.
This is more competition.
More competition.
And I feel like solution visualized would actually be like screenshots of your product.
Okay.
Or wireframes or whatever, right?
That's all getting built out.
Create some sort. Yeah, but like, come on.
What?
I could create something, right?
Okay.
In like a couple hours that looks close to what I want to do, right?
I mean, that's where we started initially at the beginning was.
Yeah, exactly. You got this.
But now again, we've pivoted. So you want to see.
Look, people like anchor to things. So do you want them to anchor to something like this that they're not going to remember? Or do you want them to anchor to something like sexy and flashy and like something that communicates like what you're aspiring to?
Okay.
All right. So from a competition perspective, I don't think these are your competitors.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I don't think of any of these as like portals. Maybe Booksy.
So Booksy and Fresha
And
both have
maybe
portals, but they're wellness spa only.
Yeah. See, I think really what you're building is a portal that's powered by a calendar.
Okay.
So I would be looking at other portals for business services. I think your competitors are like Google. I think it's
Thumbtack?
Thumbtack.
Okay.
Yep. I think Booksy, Fresha, some of these others, I think are also types of competitors. If there are companies that do what Booksy and Fresha do for other industries that are more verticalized, like plumbing and electrical and stuff like that, like those would be interesting to put here. Right?
Okay. I thought another option was to list the portals where you can schedule specific types of appointments, like who does auto scheduling.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like other like vertical.
But there's
tools.
very few portals. Most of the portals, so you've got Thumbtack, but Thumbtack is more of they sell leads. Yeah. You can't actually book an appointment.
No, but the pain point that you are partially solving is discoverability.
Correct. Which is that perspective, Google Local would be a competitor, and Thumbtack would be a competitor.
Exactly.
But none of those.
And this is where you could create like a strategy map, right? So you have one axis that is saying, okay, this is scheduling. This is who we compete with scheduling. And you've got companies that are super niche, like Booksy and Fresha, where like, yeah, they've got a scheduling portal, but they only are health and wellness, right? And then you could have others where it's like discoverability, right? And you've got like the Googles of the world and the Thumbtacks and so forth, but they don't do scheduling, right?
Okay.
And then you guys sit in this like holy grail spot where it's like we do both.
Okay.
Something like that like would really communicate like, okay, portal plus scheduling. Boom, I get it.
Got it. I like that portal plus scheduling.
Okay.
The other big challenge I think that in this model that we struggle with is when you see a marketplace, most investors see that as so unattainable that it's an automatic turnoff. Where I think if they realize, hey, we can make money whether we get to the marketplace or not, and we're a great business regardless. And I think that's one of the things that VCs currently get lost on.
That's fair. And I don't really feel like you're communicating that pathway super well.
Okay.
I don't know necessarily how I would do differently, but
okay,
just my initial feedback is like I don't feel that.
I mean, this is one of the things, like the open table component for scheduling. That was something that came up probably a couple weeks ago. Hey, here might be a better way to explain it.
Yeah. Part of it might also be like, look, we're gonna just focus niche by niche by niche and start rolling them up. Like, why go head to head with Booksy and Fresha if they're already there? Why not build the portal for electricians, for plumbers, for physical therapists, for whatever it is, right?
Yeah, the way we look at it is build a generic scheduling tool, and as you get critical mass, you can start measuring and then focusing your message and focusing your sales and marketing efforts.
Yeah, but usually you're not going to get critical mass until you focus on one vertical, right? Because it's really hard to build critical mass.
I think a lot of the scheduling tools are very generic.
But what you're saying is like we build a generic tool and then we go start testing it and seeing who gets the most value out of it, and then we target them.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Next one. So we add a roadmap. So your integrated phone system integrations here, phase 2, things like that, marketplace. We can win in our mind if we only ever hit phase 1 and phase 2.
I think there could be a lot more here, but
like what? I feel like the challenge is we add more, then we get told we're boiling the ocean.
Well, when I say add more, I don't mean like add more phases.
Okay.
I mean like give me more details.
Okay. What would you like to see?
Like help me understand like what these exactly mean. And if you've already done that in prior slides because you rework things so that I have the better fill, then like tell me how big that opportunity is.
Okay.
To you guys.
The opportunity size for each space.
Yeah.
Luckily, we've got that. But you'd like to see it on these slides.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just giving you feedback slide by slide. So I can't.
No, this is great. I think this is something that most people would never see, which is, again, why we wanted to do this for the podcast.
Cool. I think this is a really long episode that you should chop up into like 3.
Potentially part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yep.
The founding slide, we're going to kind of like fuzz off. There's more people. We're going to like hide like everyone who's involved because or get sign off one of the two. But from this, we kept the team slide just like the founders versus everyone who's involved.
That's fine.
And just positions.
Yeah.
Any changes here?
Look, if you're pitching to me, I know you both.
Okay.
Like I know enough about both of you that I'm like, cool. Like
But if you didn't.
But like this isn't like telling me anything I don't already know, right?
But if you didn't know.
But if I didn't know, I'm gonna look at this and I'll be like, never heard of Tiny Torch, Calendar, okay, maybe. I've heard of Adobe and Omniture. I don't know what he did at those companies.
Okay.
I don't know much about Codebase, so like, there's a bunch of logos I don't really know much about. Now, what could be interesting is like Codebase scaled it from 0 to blah blah blah.
Okay.
Right, managing X number of like, give me something, right? Like a resume bullet point.
Okay.
For each thing as the like why I should care if I don't know. And then ultimately, like this slide is all about like it's like getting me excited, right, about the team.
Okay.
That's your goal. And so like if you do it with logos and I'm like, wow, like he's got like people from all these like cool places that have done amazing things, like that's cool.
So we were talking about the team slide. Basically, I think that's where people left off. So the podcast is going to keep going. But on the team slide here, basically you're saying you would like to see how big is Codebase, what's the revenue, how many people are employed, why do I care?
Yeah, just give me some sizzle.
Some sizzle.
Give me some sizzle.
Okay.
You'd be like, wow, John's legit.
Business model. Paid features, just kind of a super high level payment processing, Marketplace for new clients, CRM, workflows, integrated phone system, reputation management.
Okay.
Any changes here? Or I feel like knowing what you'd say now, you'd want to say this is how big we think each market space is, or what's the TAM, or
maybe not. You know what I actually would really care more about?
Okay.
Is any sort of validation that these are the right ways to price things and monetize.
Okay. But how would you want me to validate it other than saying this is what the market's currently paying for these type of features?
Sure, you could do that.
Okay, so this one, Andreessen, my friend at Andreessen Horowitz, who's not a partner. This one's tricky because we were trying to show how we could become worth $1 billion plus. Then we pitched it to Andreessen. They're like, "You're not even 20 billion. This is a joke."
They did not say it that way.
I've got the text message.
They said, "If you're not 20 billion, you're a joke."
No, I had a phone call. Yeah, I mean, but this is a friend, so a friend speaking openly. He says, "John, fund sizes are 20 billion. They need to see that you could if you're the winner, you need to return the amount of the fund."
Yeah, that's true. You got to be $1 billion potential outcome. For Andreessen, but you don't need to raise money from Andreessen. And besides, that's baloney because I know other deals that they've backed, and I'm like, there's no way this is a $20 billion company potential, and they've backed them. So
okay. Initially, this one we showed this how to become worth $1 billion plus. So we said, if you look at the top, it shows number of business customers, and we broke it down by MRR, ARR, and we said if for a little over 10,000 customers, business customers of multiple valuation of 17 of revenue, that would put us over the $1 billion mark. So
your ARR here though is $1 billion, right?
For if you're trying to become $1 billion,
if you're trying to become a $20 billion company,
right? And then some of the local VCs are like, "John, you gotta cut this number down if you want us to share it or help you out, like if you want introductions." But if you're Andreessen's like, "I need to see you're shooting big." But then again, they typically don't jump in until a deal is Series B, right?
Dude, I wouldn't worry too much about valuation.
Okay.
I would just say, and I wouldn't say like, "Hey, this is."
We were just trying.
This is like revenue opportunity. I would say this is market.
Okay.
Just have it as a market size.
The market size for these things are X.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you could get granular, right? You could be like, I mean, if you wanted to approach this like niche by niche, right? You could say, well, like the plumbing space is this big and the blah, 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 right? So, no, I mean, I think I would just approach this as like, hey, here's like the general market sizes for what we're trying to do here, right? Thumbtacks market size is this big, Fresh's market size is this big, or whatever, right? And I would just leave it as market size because, look, if you're operating, if you are a true portal for business services, this market is insanely big. And that's the only box you really need to check.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay. And
when you do this, I think the VCs are looking at this and they're like, wow, this is just widely unrealistic. So I'm out, right? Like, I can't stand behind this incredibly.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, the big debate was people who are funding C deals look at this as being over the top. Andreessen, if you showed, hey, this is how we get to $1 billion.
This is how you get around both of those is you just say like, it's $1 trillion market.
Okay.
And then we like size it down for what we're going to attack first. And it's like a $10 billion market.
Okay. Right? Exit landscape. So this is more the scheduling landscape where you would probably say we should focus on portal acquisitions.
Yeah. Because like, honestly, what was Acuity acquired for?
So I don't know, but from the Those are some of the numbers that we pulled from the podcast.
Probably like $100 million or something.
They said revenue was roughly 25 million. And in the podcast, the founder said the percentage was about 40% net profit.
But how fast were they growing? Were they plateaued?
I don't have all those
declining?
numbers.
Like, I know you don't have the numbers. I'm just saying, like, in my head, this is what's going on. Is I'm like, that probably wasn't a huge outcome. But it's your number one thing of like, hey, Acuity got acquired by Squarespace and probably like what was a fire sale, and that's why like we're gonna like you should invest because we're gonna be so awesome like Acuity.
Okay.
And like, right.
So you would just say, hey, here's the current portals, and this is what they're worth.
Yeah, and the ones that have been acquired and like.
But I think also if we're doing a portal, do we even need a slide for exit acquisition landscape? Because people, I think. This slide came when we were talking about creating a scheduling tool for services.
Yeah.
So just like a Calendly competitor, and no one knew like. VCs
okay, so these slides are helpful if what you're trying to do is demonstrate like downside protection.
Okay.
Right, because you're like, hey, there's a ton of acquisitions occurring in this space, and somebody will buy us. Right.
But if
you don't have to like stress about it. Like there are lots of buyers for this.
I think the issue with the portal is if people can see whether you get to the marketplace or portal or not.
Yeah.
If you can still have a solid business off of workflows and scheduling and CRMs.
So the way I've seen this pitched is basically like, here's the big market opportunity. And like, if we hit it, we're going to be like $1 trillion company, blah, blah, blah. But even if we don't, like this sector is ripe with people with acquisitions. Here's like a whole bunch, boom, 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 that have been acquired. And so, like, we're going to shoot for the moon, but if, we're going to shoot for the stars, but we end up landing in the moon. Like there are plenty of people to acquire us. And again, it's like protecting your downside.
Okay. Contact info. We'll fuzz this one out. Do you put it in a pitch deck?
Nah. I mean, you can. Sure, why not?
Do you put an appendix in a pitch deck?
Yeah, but not one that I share usually. Not one that I would share.
Okay. So then we won't go through the rest of the appendix. So from this pitch deck, is there anything from other than what you've already said should be there or not be there?
I don't know. High level budget would be interesting.
Okay.
Just so that I have like, and there's no ask.
The ask is right there.
Okay. That's fine.
Is that a good breakdown? Tech, marketing, sales, operations, pre-market before this current like recession we're in or whatever we're in. We put 2.5. We've scaled it back based on the current market.
Mm-hmm.
Although you'd probably say go raise 500K if you're going to raise it all right now.
I don't know. Look, if you can raise 1.5, raise 1.5.
Okay.
Valuation is going to be tough, but
okay,
that's okay. Look, the valuation is not actually going to be that much different now versus another point in time because you don't have a product yet. Mm-hmm. So
product's getting built right now.
So it's going to be. I mean, it's not going to make a big difference, right? The bigger challenge will just be harder to raise because VCs are sitting on their hands right now. So
how many VCs are actually funding new deals? I heard Pelion today, and this could be a rumor. They haven't funded a new deal since February. And again, that might be a normal time period, or is
I think a lot of VCs are sitting on their hands right now.
How long will they sit on their hands for?
Until the market stabilize.
When do you think that'll be? 6 months?
It's going to be like 12 to 18 months.
12 to 18 months?
Yeah.
So funding, do you think will be low for the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, which is why all the VCs are telling their portfolio companies, if you can raise anything, raise it and cut your burn so you can survive another 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
It's just a tough market.
Are you guys funding new deals?
We are, yeah.
But your guys' model is very different from a standard
Our
VC.
model's a little different. We also like, hey, if there are good deals to be had, like we're going to fund them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and our model is different. Like we don't take super concentrated bets like other funds do. So, we kind of like spread the love a little bit.
Awesome.
And like if there's deals that are like come in at a really low valuation on a relative basis, like it's a buyer's market. Why wouldn't you be buying?
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side is like we've turned down a lot of deals that maybe we would have funded like 6 months ago.
Okay.
Or just like, too rich, right? Not a good enough deal. Too much uncertainty around the sector. Too much, whatever.
How much have valuations gone down?
Well, okay. So public market tech has dropped like in some cases 70%.
Okay.
That hasn't caught up in the private markets yet. And I don't know that it will. I think what will actually happen is you'll have extensions of prior rounds. You'll have bridge rounds.
Mm-hmm.
You may have some down rounds, but they will be moderate down rounds, and you'll have companies go under. But I don't think you'll have like an 80% down round. I don't think that'll happen. I think the companies will just go out of business because they can't raise more money.
Okay.
Because like, look, if you take an 80% down round, I mean, the company's done, right? Like you just put all of your employees underwater on their options. So they're like totally wiped, right? The founders get massively diluted. Prior investors get diluted. I mean, and then there's just like nobody's excited about it anymore and the company fails. So, in public markets, like you have a little more flexibility there because like you can kind of come back from it. And usually by the time you're public, you're super big anyways. And so you hopefully have some staying power and some other things. But in private markets, yeah. I mean, and then there's also the incentive, like the VCs, they don't want to take an 80% like haircut on their valuation because it'll like damage their returns and then they can't raise another fund. And so like they're incentivized to do like a bridge round, like, yeah, we'll just give you a little bit more money so you can survive through this and come out the other end and that sort of thing. So like that's how VCs in the private markets tend to like deal with massive fluctuations in the public markets. Is like, we'll just bridge you until we get to the other side of it. And hopefully things are better.
Okay, about 12 to 18 months.
Probably.
Okay. Well, thanks, Peter. I know it's getting late. He came all the way from his home. You're an hour away, so we better let him get back.
Thanks for having me, John. It's always a pleasure.
Go to venturecapital.fm if you want to subscribe to us on Spotify, on iTunes, see us on YouTube, and make sure you give us a 6-star review. That would be greatly appreciated as we grow this podcast.
Make John famous. That's what he's here for.
Make Peter famous. That's why he's here.
It's true.
Fame and glory.
It's true.
All right. Thanks, Peter. See you guys.
Ciao.